Hi there, and today I'm having a little bit of help from a friend because I'm really having trouble getting this video out. It is a penguin, I think a baby emperor penguin, but he's been keeping me company for quite some time, since back in the early Linux days. So anyway, you're going to help me because I need to get my thoughts straight. And my first thought is that this is actually a question for you all. Um, I would love to hear your comments or your experiences on this because on this topic, because it's something that may be specific to INFPs, or it may be something that maybe more universal. And the idea is that the walk down memory lane is kind of a precarious thing. That is, you're always kind of one little intuitive leap away from the memory of the thing to something that's going to be uh, reminiscent of shame and guilt and the infinite cringe, thanks to Radish Raven and Bufo Paraglenis for that inspiration. Anyway, what I would like to walk through is that with my SI, I'm not going to use those technical terms. Okay, with memory, generally I'm not really good with having specific memories of what happened, but I have more the emotional memory, and then that's kind of tagged into the impression of the actual thing that happened. So, for example, when I went to get my yearbook signed, I was with a bunch of people for the last time. There are a number of things that are tied to that. I can't quite pull them all apart to figure out what happened with whom and where. That's a little bit of a blur, but I recall the feeling, or at least the echo of the feeling that happened. That is the echo of the feeling that my 50s-year-old self believes my 18-year-old self felt at the time, or it's what I inhabit now from what I had then. So far, so good. If this makes sense so far, the precarious part is, of course, that it's always one step away from remembering other interactions with people or other things that happened or something else that's related to that memory that then falls off the precipice potentially. And that is always something of a risk, that you end up in some very bad places. Again, shame, guilt, fear, cringe, anger potentially, not really, mostly shame, guilt, and cringe. Yes. Um, anyway, so it was the piece that is interesting in all of this is that about a week ago, just by chance, I just sort of bumped into an old memory that I hadn't really considered. And that was of being at my mom's place in Mill City. She had a particular apartment that she'd been living on. It was on the ground floor, and there's sort of a number of associations with that. I know I was there a number of times, but I don't remember, what happened, what transpired when and how. But it's this kind of collage of memories, and it has tied to it only a particular feeling and then no easy precipice to fall off into some sort of negative ideas. So, what that means is that it's like a safe harbor memory. And so I've been revisiting it quite a bit lately just because it's the sort of thing that I can go to safely and dwell in that feeling without kind of falling off quickly into something I shouldn't. Now, there's a part B to this. Uh, well, my question to you first is, if you've experienced a similar sort of thing, that it's like you have memories, but you're not sure whether they're accurate or not, but you can dwell in the emotion part of the memory, where it's tagged to the actual kind of events that transpired, or what you recall of events that transpired. But then the second part of it is this is kind of a rare and special thing for me to have found a memory that has a particular set of emotions or feelings tied to it, but doesn't have any precipice that's immediately adjacent. I mean, of course, you can go 2, 3 steps removed and then you're back in the ditch. Yes, but it isn't in itself potentially perilous, to use an alliteration. So there's another thought that I'd like to tag on to this, which is that the infinite cringe as I got older has become less and less. And one theory that I've got about why that's happened, other than, it's your formative years, and in your formative years, you just have a particular, in your formative years, you just have a particular vulnerability, being less experienced, less wise, bound to make more mistakes, and those are bound to be major mistakes. And then that bring on the cringe and the shame and the guilt and all of that fun stuff. So, as I've gotten older, there have been less and less cringe moments, but I think part of that has been being more adult. Part of it, yes, really, honestly, part of it has been maybe more repetition in life, that it's with more experience and more of the same rather than more novelty. Just memory is not as it's not as intense as it is when you're experiencing some of these things for the first time. Doing the same thing for the 300th time, it's not bound to be as cringy, right? Right. And then a third thought, which I'm still exploring here, is that I have affiliated myself with a number of organizations or groups, being married, being part of different groups that do role-playing games, having been affiliated with some municipal volunteer work in organizations, of course, holding down a job and having lots of coworkers and that sort of thing. So there are all of these relationships that are established that have expectations that are tied to them and known ways of behaving within those expectations. And based on that, and even this is sort of, it's built on a sort of experience and a sort of requirement. This, whether it is considered an art form or artistic expression or, God forbid, educational, or entertainment, or some combination of all three, it is a thing that is somehow not cringe because it is somehow a requirement or an expectation. So I can't guarantee that this will prevent cringe memories, but it may help if you have particular things that, if you have particular routines that you fall into and particular obligations that you're required to fulfill. Then it becomes possible, for instance, to go halfway around the world and present to people you've never met before and participate in events that one has never gone to before, because there is in part the knowledge of experience and in part the expectation that you're supposed to do all of this stuff. So you put on the expectations hat. I have my expectations hat here. You put on your expectations hat and you fulfill those expectations. I may have several expectations hats. So anyway, thank you so much for helping me get these thoughts across. And now it's over to you. I would love to hear if any of this resonates, if, especially for older folks, if it's part of your experience that as you get older and more experienced and are more affiliated to organizations or more deeply enmeshed in relationships, that it becomes more possible to avoid a lot of that, avoid a lot of those potential cringe things, and that the cringe ever goes away. I hope it does, because living a life filled with cringe in one's memories is already challenging enough. And so I hope that a lot of you out there could say, oh, I have no idea what you're talking about with going deep into the cringe, because it's painful. Yes. Anyway, my friend and I will now bid you adieu, but thank you so much for your time and attention. And now we're going to go back to talking directly to each other again. So if you'll excuse us, we hope you're having a good morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you may be.